Apple actually does not want you to buy their newest computer. I know what some of you are thinking. That sounds like a cheap clickbait line. But I need you to stay with me and really think about this. Apple is actively pricing their brand new machine so obnoxiously high that it feels like a personal dare. They are putting it on a pedestal so tall, they are secretly hoping most of you will just blink, look away, and settle for an iPad or a standard MacBook Air instead. They want the casual fans to stay safely in the shallow end of the pool. But here is the absolute crazy part that nobody else is talking about yet. You absolutely should not look away. You need to pay attention right now, because the iMac Pro is officially coming back from the dead, and it carries a starting price tag of exactly $3,999. Take a deep breath. I know $4,000 is a massive number. In the real world, $4,000 is a solid down payment on a decent used Chevy. It is half a year of groceries, or a massive chunk of a mortgage payment. It is a serious amount of cash to drop on something that just sits on your desk. Before you rush down to the comment section to type out an angry manifesto about how greedy Tim Cook has become, or how Apple has completely lost its collective mind, I need you to hear me out. There is a very specific method to this madness, and it is not what you think. This isn't some sketchy rumor posted by a random guy in a basement on Reddit. This is locked in data. We are seeing heavily corroborated reports from the absolute heavyweights of the supply chain industry, including Mark Gurman and Ross Young. The premium tech world is currently losing its mind over this machine, and frankly, they have a very good reason to be excited. But we have to address the giant elephant in the room. Is this massive, shiny piece of aluminum actually worth 4,000 of your hard-earned, highly taxed American dollars? Or is Apple heavily banking on the fact that we are all clinically addicted to that glowing fruit logo? Stick with me, because there is one specific, hidden detail buried deep in the supply chain reports that completely justifies this insane price tag. It is a detail that changes everything about how you will upgrade your tech for the next decade. I am going to reveal exactly what that is in a few minutes. First, we need to talk about the absolute monster living under the hood. Let's get right into the meat and potatoes of what this machine actually is. According to top-tier industry insiders, this new iMac Pro is packing the incredibly aggressive M4 Ultra chip. Listen to me very carefully here. This is not the cute little standard chip you find in the base models. This is not the computer you buy for your grandma so she can check Facebook, look at photos of the grandkids, and occasionally hit reply all on an email. This is something else entirely. This is the absolute top of the silicon food chain, the highly radioactive stuff that Apple physically welds together in a secret underground lab. It was built for one specific reason: to completely humiliate heavy-duty workstation hardware from brands like Dell, HP, and Lenovo. We are talking about a heavily reported 32-core CPU. We are talking about a massive 60-core GPU. And the absolute kicker, it supports up to 192 gigabytes of unified memory. Just let your brain aggressively chew on that for a second. Imagine 192 gigs of RAM in a computer that literally just sits on your desk looking like a giant, wildly expensive iPad. Do you remember the late 90s? Do you remember when we all thought a Pentium 2 processor with 64 megabytes of RAM was an absolute supercomputer? We used to hear that dial-up modem scream through the phone lines and genuinely think we were living in a sci-fi movie. Well, NASA called. They want their engineering back. This is not consumer tech. This is a military-grade workstation wearing a very sleek, very expensive designer tuxedo. Apple knows exactly what kind of psychological game they are playing with that entry price. They know that as guys, we love a good flex. We love owning the absolute best thing sitting in the garage or on the desk. But they also know that true professionals, the guys who actually make a living using these tools, will gladly pay for real, unadulterated power. Raw speed isn't the only reason this thing is a financial W. EPON. Let's talk about the screen, because this is where the financial math actually starts to favor Apple. The leaked specifications are pointing to a massive 32-inch nano-texture mini LED display. And yes, it comes with promotion, which means you get that buttery smooth adaptive refresh rate all the way up to 120 Hz. If you are a creative professional, a high-end video editor, or a 3D artist surviving entirely on black coffee and deadline panic, this screen alone is essentially worth its weight in solid gold. Let's do some quick capitalism math together. If you go out right now and try to buy a comparable high-end reference monitor from a professional brand, you are easily dropping anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500. And remember, that is just for the screen. It doesn't compute anything. It just sits there and looks pretty. I know what some of you are thinking. You are sitting there saying, $4,000 for a screen and a chip, this guy is out of his mind. But when you actually strip away the internet Apple hate for a minute and look at the whole bundle, the picture drastically changes. You are getting a world-class reference display, a monster ultra-class processor, and a gorgeous aluminum chassis all in one. Suddenly, that crazy price tag starts to look like a weird, twisted kind of bargain. However, all of this hardware means absolutely nothing if you cannot get your data in and out of the machine quickly. Let's talk about the ports. The old iMac Pro was cool, but this new one is built to survive a nuclear winter. We are looking at Thunderbolt 5 ports. This means data transfer speeds are hitting an insane 120 gigabits per second. That is literally triple the speed of Thunderbolt 4. Think about the first time you downloaded an MP3 on Napster, and it took 3 hours. Now, imagine moving an entire Hollywood movie in uncompressed 8K resolution in the time it takes you to blink. This is the literal difference between going home to your family at 5 in the afternoon and sleeping under your desk waiting for a progress bar to finish. Now, let's hit the brakes for a second. We need to have a real talk man to man. The psychology of Apple marketing is brilliantly designed to make you feel like you need this machine to be a successful, important guy. But honestly, if you are someone who mostly browses Chrome, types up documents in Excel, watches YouTube, and occasionally edits a photo of your dog, do not buy this machine. I repeat, step away from the shopping cart and close the tab. Apple's standard M4 iMac starts at a very reasonable price, and it will do absolutely everything you need without requiring you to liquidate your 401k. Keep your money in your pocket. This $4,000 beast is strictly for the hustle. It is purely for the working professionals whose actual paycheck depends on how fast their computer renders. We are talking about video editors slicing up massive raw files. We are talking about music producers running 100 complex tracks at the exact same time. We are talking about architects rendering 3D models that would instantly melt a normal laptop. For these specific guys, this iMac isn't an expensive luxury toy. It is a tax write-off. It is a business partner. It is a serious investment in your own productivity and your own sanity. Let's break down the hustle math even further. Let's say you are a seasoned freelancer. If you are charging $150 an hour, and this new iMac Pro saves you just 2 simple hours a week in rendering or processing time, the machine pays for itself in roughly 13 weeks. That is less than one single business quarter. That is an insane, undeniable return on investment. If you take that $4,000 and spread it out over 4 years of daily professional use, it breaks down to about $80 or $100 a month. You probably spend more than that on streaming subscriptions you forgot to cancel, or weekend hardware store trips. When you look at it as a daily business expense, it stops being scary. It starts being a highly logical move for your career. But hold on tight, because Apple always has a trap waiting for you. We have to talk about the infamous RAM pricing. This is the ultimate psychological trap they set. The base model comes with 64 gigs of memory, which is honestly pretty solid for most pros. But if you have that deep fear of missing out, and do you think you absolutely need 128 gigs or the legendary 192 gigs? Get ready to get hurt. You could end up paying $5,000 or $6,000 total. And here is the worst part. You cannot upgrade it later. Those days are dead. Apple solders that memory right to the chip. You are forced to predict exactly what your workflow will require 4 years from now. It is an evil way to force you to overspend today out of pure fear. You need to calculate that risk before you hit the checkout button. On the software front, Apple is also aggressively turning the screws. The upcoming versions of macOS are packing heavy AI-powered features. But the catch is that the really good stuff is going to be optimized specifically for these massive Ultra chips. We are talking about AI video upscaling and real-time transcription that Windows machines simply cannot replicate with this level of smooth integration. Apple is building a beautiful walled garden, but the walls are made of solid gold. Once you are inside, they make it very hard to leave. This brings me back to that hidden detail I mentioned at the start of the video. According to insider reports, Apple is locking in this 32-inch design for the next decade. This means if you buy this machine now, it isn't going to look like an outdated dinosaur in 3 years. You are buying the absolute ground floor of a decade-long hardware generation. That makes the $4,000 price tag much easier to swallow. If you are still using an old Intel-based Mac, the jump is going to be massive. It will feel like you time-traveled into the future. Your current machine is basically a rusty bicycle compared to this. So, let me ask you the real question. Are you going to bite the bullet and invest in this 10-year powerhouse? Or are you sticking with your current setup until it physically catches fire? Let me know your exact upgrade plans down in the comments right now.